A breakthrough has emerged in the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case. After 7 months of intensive investigation, after countless hours spent analyzing evidence and interviewing witnesses, after following every possible lead, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have made a significant discovery. New evidence has come to light that fundamentally changes our understanding of what happened to 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan on May 2, 2025. This isn't speculation or rumor. This is based on concrete forensic findings, witness testimony that's recently emerged, and investigative developments that bring us closer than ever to understanding the truth about what happened to these 2 innocent children who vanished from their rural Nova Scotia home. The evidence that's been uncovered is shocking. It contradicts key elements of the story that Daniel Martel and Malahia Brooks Murray have been telling for months. It provides investigators with new leads to pursue and new pressure points to exploit, and it may finally provide the breakthrough needed to bring charges in this case and deliver justice for Lilly and Jack. What you're about to hear represents the most significant developments in this investigation since the children first disappeared. Before we reveal the shocking new evidence that's emerged and what it means for this case, you absolutely need to subscribe to True Crime Vault right now and hit that notification bell. We've been covering the Sullivan case from day one, bringing you the most in-depth analysis and the latest developments as they happen. If you want to stay informed about this case and others like this, subscribe immediately. Smash that like button because it helps push this critical content to more people who care about finding answers for Lilly and Jack. And engage with us in the comments section. Share your thoughts on this new evidence and what you think it means. Now let's dive into the breakthrough discoveries that could finally crack this case wide open. The first major piece of new evidence comes from forensic analysis that's been ongoing for months. When investigators initially processed the Sullivan property on May 2nd, and in the days following the disappearance, they collected hundreds of samples. Soil samples from various locations around the yard, swabs from surfaces inside the house, fibers from carpets and furniture, biological samples from drains. All of this material was sent to forensic laboratories for detailed analysis. And while some results came back relatively quickly, other tests required months of painstaking work by specialists using advanced techniques. Those long-awaited results have finally come back, and what they reveal is deeply incriminating. The soil analysis has produced particularly significant findings. Forensic soil scientists examined samples taken from multiple locations on the property, looking for anomalies that might indicate disturbance or the presence of decomposing organic material. What they found in 3 specific locations is extremely concerning. The soil showed chemical signatures consistent with human decomposition, elevated levels of nitrogen compounds, changes in pH levels, presence of adipocere, a waxy substance that forms when body fats decompose under certain conditions. The chemical profile matches what you'd expect to find in soil where human remains had been present, even if those remains had since been removed. These findings weren't from random locations. The 3 spots where decomposition markers were detected form a pattern that investigators find extremely significant. One location is near the tree line at the edge of the property, approximately where the neighbor reported seeing Daniel standing and looking into the woods on the morning of May 2nd. Another location is behind an outbuilding on the property, an area that wouldn't be easily visible from the road or from neighboring houses. The 3rd location is in a section of the yard that's somewhat secluded, behind some bushes and not readily visible from the main house. All 3 locations are places where bodies could have been temporarily placed or buried without being easily observed. The forensic scientists were careful to note that these markers don't definitively prove human remains were present. The chemical signatures could theoretically come from other sources, though they'd be hard to explain in these specific locations and concentrations. But when combined with all the other evidence in this case, when viewed in the context of 2 missing children and suspicious behavior from the adults who had custody of them, the interpretation seems clear. Something decomposed in those locations, and the most likely explanation is that it was biological material from Lilly and Jack Sullivan. What makes these soil findings even more significant is the depth at which the decomposition markers were found. The chemical signatures weren't just on the surface but extended down 12 to 18 inches into the soil at each location. This suggests that whatever decomposed there was buried at least temporarily at a shallow depth. The pattern is consistent with bodies being buried quickly in shallow graves, left there for a period of hours or perhaps a day or two, and then removed and relocated to a more permanent location. This would explain why extensive searches of the property didn't find remains. They weren't there anymore by the time the searches began. The forensic team also analyzed the soil composition itself, comparing samples from the 3 locations of interest to soil from other parts of the property and to soil from the wooded area where Daniel's truck was spotted. What they found is fascinating from a scientific standpoint and damning from an investigative standpoint. The soil at all 3 locations on the property showed mixing of layers that shouldn't naturally occur together. Deeper soil that should be compacted was mixed with surface soil. This indicates digging and refilling. Someone disturbed the ground at these locations, dug holes, and then filled them back in. The mixing patterns are consistent with hurried, amateur digging rather than professional landscaping or construction work. The DNA analysis has also produced crucial findings. Remember that investigators found traces of blood in the house through luminol testing, blood that had been cleaned but left microscopic residue. Those samples have now been fully analyzed. The DNA extracted from the blood traces in Jack's bedroom has been definitively matched to Jack Sullivan through comparison with DNA obtained from his toothbrush and other personal items. The DNA from blood traces found in the bathroom has been matched to Lilly Sullivan through the same process. This means we now have scientific proof that both children bled in those locations, that their blood was shed inside that house, that something happened to them there that caused them to bleed significantly enough to leave traces that survived cleaning attempts. The amount of blood, while not massive, was more than you'd expect from a minor injury. The distribution pattern of the blood traces suggests it wasn't from a single point source but had been spread somewhat, consistent with someone bleeding while moving or being moved. Forensic analysts who examined the patterns believe the blood evidence is consistent with significant trauma to the children. The pattern analysis suggests the blood was transferred to multiple surfaces, indicating movement through the rooms after injury occurred. What makes this finding so damning is that there's no record of either child receiving medical treatment for injuries around that time. No emergency room visits, no calls to doctors, no reports to school nurses about injuries requiring attention. If the children were injured in a way that caused bleeding of this nature and no medical help was sought, that strongly implies the adults in the house chose not to seek help. And why would you make that choice unless you were responsible for the injuries and trying to avoid scrutiny? Or unless seeking help was no longer relevant to the situation? There's more from the DNA analysis. Investigators also tested biological material recovered from Daniel's truck, the vehicle that neighbors heard running at unusual hours. Cadaver dogs had shown interest in the truck bed, suggesting they detected decomposition scent. Samples were collected from various surfaces in the truck and analyzed. The results show presence of DNA from both Lilly and Jack in the truck bed. Now, finding their DNA in a vehicle they'd ridden in before wouldn't necessarily be significant. Children leave DNA everywhere they go. But the specific location and context matter here. The DNA was found in areas of the truck bed that wouldn't have normal contact with passengers. It was in crevices and seams where biological material could seep and remain even after cleaning. It was mixed with soil that matches the composition of soil from the Sullivan property. The forensic team believes the DNA got there through contact with remains rather than from the children riding in the truck while alive. Additionally, the DNA showed degradation patterns consistent with it coming from biological material that had been deceased for some time rather than from living individuals. This is strong evidence that bodies were transported in that truck. The forensic analysis of the truck revealed something else interesting. Trace evidence found in the truck bed included plant material, specifically leaves and small twigs from tree species that are common in the wooded area where the truck was spotted but that don't grow on the Sullivan property. This places the truck in that specific wooded location, corroborating the witness account. The plant material was found mixed with the soil and DNA evidence, suggesting it all arrived in the truck bed during the same trip. Someone drove that truck into those woods and came into contact with vegetation there while doing something that left biological evidence behind. New witness testimony has also emerged that significantly strengthens the case. A delivery driver who regularly serviced the area has come forward with information about seeing Daniel's truck on the morning of May 2nd. This driver makes early morning deliveries and was in the area around 5:45 a.m. He reported seeing a truck matching the description of Daniel's vehicle on a rural road about 10 kilometers from the Sullivan property. The truck was pulled off to the side of the road near a wooded area. The driver didn't think much of it at the time, assumed someone had stopped to deal with a mechanical issue or to make a phone call. But when investigators showed him photos of Daniel's truck, he confirmed it was the same vehicle. And when they showed him photos of Daniel, he said he couldn't be completely certain, but thought the person he saw standing near the truck looked similar. This sighting is significant for multiple reasons. First, it places Daniel's truck away from the property during the time window when the neighbor heard a vehicle engine running. Second, the location where the truck was seen is near a densely forested area with rough terrain, exactly the kind of place where someone might dispose of remains where they'd be difficult to find. Third, Daniel never mentioned leaving the property that morning. In all his statements, he claimed to have been at home from the previous evening through the time the 911 call was made. This witness account proves he's been lying about his movements during the critical time period. The delivery driver provided additional details that investigators find compelling. He said the person he saw near the truck appeared to be doing something in the truck bed, leaning over it as if placing or removing something. The person then walked toward the tree line carrying what might have been a bag or bundle, though the driver couldn't be certain from the distance and the early morning light conditions. The person was out of sight for several minutes, then returned to the truck without carrying anything visible. This description is entirely consistent with someone disposing of remains or evidence in the woods. What's particularly valuable about this witness is that he came forward independently, without prompting from police. He saw media coverage of the case months after the disappearance and recognized the truck from news footage. He contacted investigators on his own initiative because he felt the information might be relevant. This kind of unprompted witness testimony often carries significant weight because there's no suggestion that the witness was coached or influenced by investigators. He simply reported what he saw. Investigators have conducted extensive searches of the wooded area near where the truck was spotted. They've brought in ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, and search teams that have meticulously combed through the terrain. While they haven't found remains yet, the area is vast and the terrain is challenging. Dense undergrowth, rocky outcroppings, ravines, streams. There are countless places where remains could be hidden and remain undiscovered even with thorough searching. They've identified several locations of interest where the ground shows signs of disturbance and where dogs have indicated potential interest. Excavation of these sites is ongoing, with teams carefully digging and sifting through soil. The search teams have been using sophisticated technology, including LiDAR scanning, which uses laser technology to create detailed three-dimensional maps of the terrain, penetrating through vegetation to reveal ground features that might indicate disturbance. They've also employed thermal imaging drones that can detect temperature variations in the soil that might indicate decomposition. The commitment of resources to this search demonstrates how seriously investigators are taking the witness sighting and the other evidence pointing to this location. Now, for those of you who may be joining this case for the first time, or who need a refresher on the crucial background details, let me take a moment to bring you up to speed on exactly what happened and why this case has captured the attention of people across Canada and around the world. This context is essential to understanding why the new evidence we're discussing today is so significant and why it represents such a major breakthrough in the investigation. Lilly and Jack Sullivan were two young children living in rural Nova Scotia with their mother Malahia Brooks Murray and her partner Daniel Martel. The family lived on a property in Lansdowne Station, a small community in Pictou County. It's important to understand that this is a very rural, isolated area. The property where the family lived is surrounded by dense forest and wilderness. Neighbors exist, but houses are spaced far apart. It's the kind of place where you might not see or hear what's happening at a neighboring property unless something draws your attention specifically. The children's biological father, Cody Sullivan, was not in the picture. He had lost his parental rights due to his own issues and was not involved in the children's daily lives. So the primary adults responsible for Lilly and Jack were their mother Malahia and her partner Daniel. The couple also had a baby daughter together named Meadow, who was about 1 year old at the time of the events we're discussing. So it was a blended family situation with Malahia's 2 older children from her previous relationship and the baby she shared with Daniel. On May 2, 2025, at 10:01 in the morning, Malahia called 911 to report that Lilly and Jack were missing. According to the story she and Daniel told, the children had been playing in the backyard of their property that morning. Malahia and Daniel were inside the house with baby Meadow. They could hear the children playing outside. Everything seemed normal. But then they noticed the house had gone quiet. When they went outside to check on Lilly and Jack, the children were nowhere to be found. The back gate was open, and the vast wilderness that surrounded the property seemed to have swallowed them up. Emergency responders arrived quickly. A massive search operation was launched immediately. This became one of the largest search operations in Nova Scotia's history. Volunteers flooded the area, responding to calls on social media and local news. Over 100 people participated in the initial searches. Police officers from multiple jurisdictions arrived. Specialized search and rescue teams were deployed with extensive training and sophisticated equipment. Cadaver dogs were brought in, highly trained animals capable of detecting human remains even when buried or concealed. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging cameras swept overhead, technology that can detect body heat even through tree cover. Drones flew grid patterns over areas too dense or dangerous for ground teams. Every available resource was thrown at finding these two missing children. The community rallied in an incredible way. People who had never met this family came out to help search. Local businesses donated food and supplies for the searchers. The story dominated local and national news. Everyone hoped and prayed that Lilly and Jack would be found safe. But as the hours turned into days and the days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. Despite the massive search effort, despite covering miles and miles of wilderness, despite using every available technology and technique, no trace of the children was found. Not a piece of clothing, not a footprint, not a single shred of physical evidence that they had wandered into those woods. It was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. And that's when investigators began to look more closely at the story they were being told. That's when they started asking harder questions. Because in cases of missing children, especially young children, statistics tell us that stranger abduction is extremely rare. The vast majority of the time when a child goes missing or is harmed, someone known to that child, often someone in the family, is responsible. It's an uncomfortable truth that people don't like to confront, but it's a truth that investigators must always consider. So, police began scrutinizing Daniel Martel and Malahia Brooks Murray more carefully. They conducted multiple interviews with both of them, asking detailed questions about the timeline, about the children's behavior in the days leading up to the disappearance, about the family dynamics, about everything that might be relevant. And the more they talked to Daniel and Malahia, the more inconsistencies they found in their stories. Small details that didn't match between their separate accounts. Timeline elements that shifted when questioned repeatedly. Explanations that didn't quite add up when examined closely. Teachers from the school Lilly and Jack attended came forward with concerning information. They reported that there had been signs of possible abuse or neglect, bruises on the children that raised questions, behavior changes that worried them. One teacher had even filed a report with Child Protective Services weeks before the children disappeared. But that system, overwhelmed and understaffed like child welfare systems everywhere, hadn't acted quickly enough to intervene before it was too late. Neighbors reported hearing arguments and sounds of conflict from the Sullivan property in the weeks before May 2nd. They heard what sounded like children in distress on multiple occasions. But like so many people, they didn't want to interfere, didn't want to make assumptions, convince themselves it wasn't as bad as it might have sounded. And now they live with the regret of not acting on those concerns. As the investigation progressed, more troubling information emerged. Daniel Martel had a history of issues with anger and with previous relationships. Ex-partners described him as controlling and sometimes aggressive. There was a previous incident involving child welfare concerns from a prior relationship. This wasn't a person with a clean record when it came to appropriate behavior around children. Malahia Brooks Murray had her own concerning history. She had temporarily lost custody of Lilly and Jack about 2 years before they disappeared. Court documents show the children were placed with her mother for several months while Malahia dealt with personal issues. The specifics are sealed, but it's clear she was struggling with the responsibilities of parenting. When she regained custody, family members expressed private concerns about whether she was truly ready to handle 2 young children. Financial records showed the couple was under tremendous stress. They were deeply in debt, behind on rent, struggling to afford basic necessities for 3 children. This kind of financial desperation creates enormous pressure in relationships and can lead to tragic outcomes when people feel overwhelmed and see no way out. Text messages between Daniel and Malahia revealed significant relationship problems. They argued frequently about money, about the children, about their future. Messages showed resentment, particularly from Daniel, about having to support and care for children who weren't biologically his. There were discussions about how much easier life would be without certain burdens. Dark conversations that take on sinister meaning in light of what happened. The last confirmed independent sighting of Lilly and Jack alive was on May 1st, the day before they were reported missing. Security cameras at a Dollarama store in a neighboring town captured the family shopping together at 2:25 p.m. After that timestamp, only Daniel and Malaya claimed to have seen the children alive. There are no other witnesses who can verify the children were okay after that shopping trip. This creates a critical gap in the timeline. From 2:25 p.m. on May 1st until 10:01 a.m. on May 2nd when they were reported missing, that's nearly 20 hours where only Daniel and Malaya can account for what happened to Lilly and Jack. 20 hours where we have to rely entirely on their word. And given all the other evidence suggesting they've been deceptive, their word isn't worth much. The theory that investigators developed is that something happened to the children during the evening of May 1st or the overnight hours into May 2nd, that they were harmed in the house. That rather than seeking medical help or reporting what occurred, Daniel and Malaya made a decision to cover it up. They cleaned the scene. They disposed of the bodies. And then they created the story about the children wandering off to explain their absence. It was a calculated plan designed to avoid accountability for what they had done. The evidence supporting this theory has been building steadily over 7 months. The blood found in the house proving the children were injured there. The soil evidence suggesting bodies were temporarily on the property. The witness accounts of suspicious activity and movements. The lies Daniel and Malaya have been caught in about their activities during the critical time period. The financial records showing purchases of supplies that could be used for cleanup and disposal. The internet searches showing guilty knowledge and planning. All of it pointing toward the same conclusion. But until now, until this new evidence we're discussing today, there were still gaps. Still questions that couldn't be fully answered. Still enough ambiguity that prosecutors weren't confident about filing charges and securing convictions. That's why this breakthrough is so significant. The new forensic results, the new witness testimony, the new analysis of digital evidence, all of it fills in those gaps. All of it strengthens the case to the point where criminal charges are likely imminent. So that's the background you need to understand. 2 children disappeared under suspicious circumstances. The adults responsible for their care have been caught in multiple lies. Evidence suggests the children were harmed in the home and their bodies disposed of. And now, after 7 months of painstaking investigation, the case is finally reaching the point where justice may be served. Now let's continue with the additional new evidence that's emerged and what it means for the future of this investigation. Another witness has come forward with information about Malaya's behavior in the days before the disappearance. A co-worker at the retail store where Malaya worked part-time reported that Malaya seemed different in the final week before May 2nd. She seemed distracted and anxious. She made several comments about being stressed and overwhelmed. On April 30th, just 2 days before the children disappeared, Malaya told this co-worker that she wished she could just start over with her life, that she felt trapped by circumstances she couldn't control. The co-worker asked what she meant, and Malaya became vague, said she was just venting frustration. But looking back, this co-worker believes Malaya was contemplating doing something drastic. This same co-worker also reported that Malaya requested to change her work schedule in late April. She asked to have May 2nd off, citing a family matter she needed to handle. This request was made about a week in advance. Why would Malaya specifically request that day off? Was she planning what was going to happen? Did she know she'd need that day to report the children missing and deal with the investigation that would follow? The timing is suspicious and suggests premeditation rather than a spontaneous act. The co-worker checked the scheduling records and confirmed that Malaya made this request on April 24th, more than a week before the disappearance. There's more from this co-worker's observations. She said that on April 29th, Malaya came to work with what appeared to be scratches on her arms. When asked about them, Malaya said the family cat had scratched her, but the co-worker noted that the marks looked unusual and Malaya seemed uncomfortable discussing them. She changed the subject quickly and kept her sleeves pulled down for the rest of the shift even though the store was warm. The co-worker didn't think much of it at the time but remembers the interaction clearly now. Could these marks have been from a struggle? We can't know for certain, but the timing is notable. Cell phone data has provided additional crucial evidence. Forensic analysis of both Daniel and Malehia's phones shows their movements through cell tower connections and GPS data when location services were enabled. On the evening of May 1st and the early morning of May 2nd, the data reveals several significant patterns. Daniel's phone shows him leaving the property around 11:15 p.m. on May 1st, consistent with his admitted trip to the gas station. But the data also shows his phone was near the wooded area where his truck was later spotted by the delivery driver around 5:30 to 5:45 a.m. on May 2nd. He was in that location for approximately 15 to 20 minutes before the phone shows him returning to the property. This completely contradicts his claim that he was home all morning. The cell data doesn't lie. It proves he made a trip to that wooded area during the exact time window when evidence could have been disposed of. When confronted with this data, Daniel initially claimed his phone must have been malfunctioning or that the data must be wrong. But cell phone location data from multiple towers is highly reliable. The phone was in that location because Daniel was in that location. The only question is what he was doing there. And given all the other evidence, the answer seems clear. Malehia's phone data is also revealing. It shows that she was at home during the time periods when Daniel was away. Her phone didn't leave the property from the evening of May 1st through the morning when 911 was called. This is consistent with her remaining at the property while Daniel handled other aspects. But there's something interesting in her phone activity patterns. During the night of May 1st into early May 2nd, her phone shows very little activity. No texts sent, no calls made, no social media usage, no browsing. For someone who typically used her phone frequently throughout the day and evening, checking social media, texting friends, this sudden silence is notable. What was she doing during those hours when she wasn't using her phone? Was she dealing with a situation that required her full attention and couldn't be interrupted? The phone data also reveals that both Daniel and Malehia accessed specific websites and conducted specific searches during the critical time period. Daniel's browser history shows that on April 27th, 5 days before the disappearance, he searched for information about forensic science and investigation techniques. He searched for information about evidence collection and preservation. He searched for how long certain types of investigation typically continue before resources are scaled back. These searches demonstrate an unusual level of interest in investigative procedures just days before the children disappeared. Malehia's search history is equally concerning. On April 26th, she searched for information about cleaning products and their effectiveness. She searched for household chemicals and their properties. She searched for general information about missing persons cases and how they're investigated. On April 28th, she searched for information about searches and how they're conducted. These aren't the searches of someone with innocent intentions. These are searches that suggest planning and preparation. Financial records have revealed additional suspicious activity. Beyond the large cash withdrawals that have been previously reported, investigators have found other concerning transactions. In the week before the disappearance, Daniel made cash purchases at a hardware store. The store's records show he bought various items, including tools and supplies. When investigators asked him about these purchases, he claimed he couldn't remember making them, then later said they must have been for projects he was planning around the property. But the yard shows no signs of recent projects that would require these tools, and the items were never found on the property when police searched it. Where did they go? What were they actually used for? The hardware store employee who processed the purchase remembered the transaction because of the combination of items and the way Daniel acted. According to the employee, Daniel seemed nervous and didn't engage in the usual small talk that often happens during checkout. He paid cash, which isn't unusual, but combined with his demeanor stood out enough to be memorable. The employee didn't think much of it at the time, but remembered when investigators came asking questions. Malehia's financial records show she made an online purchase of cleaning supplies from a bulk supplier. Industrial strength products, professional-grade items designed for heavy-duty cleaning. Large quantities far beyond what a normal household would need for routine cleaning. The order was placed on April 28th and delivered on April 30th. When asked about this purchase, she claimed she was planning to do deep cleaning of the house. But the house wasn't deeply cleaned when police arrived. So what were those supplies actually used for? The most logical explanation is they were used to address evidence. The supplier that fulfilled the order has provided investigators with detailed records. The specific products Malehia ordered are typically used by professional cleaning services or specialized cleaning companies. They're not products a typical homeowner would even know to look for or know how to use properly. The fact that Malahia knew to order these specific items suggests she researched what would be most effective. The order confirmation recovered from her account shows she paid extra for expedited delivery to ensure the products arrived before May 2nd. The timeline that emerges from all this new evidence is deeply troubling. On the evening of May 1st, something happened to Lilly and Jack in that house. Evidence suggests they were harmed in their bedroom and bathroom respectively. The adults in the house, Daniel and Malahia, chose not to seek medical help. Instead, they began addressing what had occurred. Cleaning supplies that had been purchased in advance were used. Bodies were moved to temporary locations on the property, places where they wouldn't be immediately discovered. During the night, while Malahia remained at the property, Daniel made his trip to the gas station. He returned and spent time in the children's room around midnight. In the early morning hours, around 2 or 3 a.m., heavy objects were moved in the house. At approximately 5:30 a.m., Daniel took his truck to the wooded area about 10 kilometers away. He spent 15 to 20 minutes there before returning to the property. They created sounds to suggest the children were present that morning. They waited until mid-morning to call 911, giving themselves time to ensure everything was in place. They reported the children missing and began their performance as distraught parents. They maintained this act for 7 months until the weight of evidence became overwhelming. Analysis of the children's electronic devices, tablets that they used for games and educational content, has revealed something significant. The devices show that both were last used on the evening of May 1st, around 7:30 to 8 p.m. After that, no activity. If the children were well through the evening and into the next morning as claimed, why didn't they use their tablets? The devices showed consistent usage patterns up until that evening, then nothing. The specific timing is significant. The tablets show activity consistent with the children's normal evening routines, then sudden cessation. For children who typically use their devices until bedtime, this early cessation of activity is anomalous and raises questions about what prevented them from continuing their normal patterns. Analysis of the household's smart home devices has provided a timeline of activity. The system includes smart speakers and a smart thermostat that log various events. The data shows that on the evening of May 1st, around 9:45 p.m., there was a sudden spike in noise detected by the smart speaker in the hallway near the children's rooms. The noise level was high enough to trigger the device's logging threshold. Then, for the next several hours, the house was unusually quiet in areas where the children would normally be. Normal household sounds continued, but there were no sounds from the children's rooms. The smart thermostat data shows that on the night of May 1st, the heat was turned up significantly higher than usual around 10 p.m. The temperature in the house was raised to approximately 82 degrees and kept there for several hours before being lowered back to normal around 4 a.m. Why would someone turn the heat up so high in late spring when outside temperatures were mild? The behavior is unusual and unexplained by normal household activities. Investigators discovered that Daniel accessed the internet on his phone around 3 a.m. on May 2nd and searched for specific information. The searches were related to investigation techniques and evidence detection. These searches, made during the night, show unusual interest in investigative procedures at a very suspicious time. The combination of all this evidence paints an overwhelming picture. The soil showing markers at 3 locations, the DNA evidence from inside the house and from the truck, the witness sighting in the wooded area, the cell phone data proving false statements, the financial records showing suspicious purchases, the timeline from smart home devices, the internet searches. All of it together builds a case that's becoming impossible to explain with innocent interpretations. A confidential informant has come forward. This person had contact with either Daniel or Malahia in the weeks after the disappearance and was told things during private conversations. According to this informant, one of the suspects made statements that revealed knowledge beyond what was publicly known. The informant didn't fully understand the significance at the time, but after watching the case develop, decided to come forward. The informant has provided specific details that align with evidence that hasn't been made public. This corroboration between confidential testimony and physical evidence is extremely powerful. The information is being verified and cross-referenced. If it continues to check out as it has so far, this could be crucial in prosecution. Based on all this new evidence, investigators believe they understand what occurred. The children were harmed on the evening of May 1st. Their remains were initially placed in temporary locations on the property. In the early morning of May 2nd, remains were transported to a wooded area and concealed. Daniel and Malehia then executed a plan to report the children as having wandered off. The evidence suggests planning. The advance purchases suggest preparation. The work schedule request suggests foreknowledge. The internet searches suggest planning. Whether both were equally involved in all aspects, or whether one was primary and the other complicit, remains a question. But evidence shows both were involved afterward, both provided false information, both worked to prevent truth from emerging. Prosecutors are reviewing all this evidence. The standard they must meet is proof beyond reasonable doubt. Cases without recovered remains are challenging, but such cases have been successfully prosecuted when circumstantial evidence is strong enough. In this case, the circumstantial evidence is extremely strong and growing. Legal experts believe charges are likely coming soon, possibly within weeks. The evidence has reached a point where prosecutors can credibly present to a jury. Defense would face significant challenges creating reasonable doubt against this evidence. The community is watching closely. People suspected from the beginning that more was concealed than revealed. The new evidence confirms suspicions. There's relief that progress is being made, anger that it's taken this long, profound sadness for children who deserved better, determination to see justice. Community members have organized vigils. They've created memorials. They've displayed information about the case. The community has rallied to keep attention focused on resolution. For family members, this evidence brings complex emotions. It moves toward justice, but it confirms difficult truths. It means accepting the children suffered and were failed. That's devastating for family to process. The biological father has expressed gratitude for investigators' work and commitment to accountability. He's expressed anguish at details emerging. Despite his own past issues, he never wanted anything but safety for his children. He's committed to attending proceedings once charges are filed. Malehia's mother has expressed devastation at evidence pointing toward her daughter. She's unable to comprehend how this happened. She's torn between love and horror. She said if her daughter is guilty, she must face consequences, but she'll always love her. The RCMP has scheduled a press conference to provide an official update. They'll likely confirm significant progress and that the case is moving toward resolution. They may announce focus is shifting to building the case for prosecution. They may indicate charges are forthcoming. What happens next? If charges are filed, arrests will be made. Defendants will face bail hearings. Given severity of potential charges, bail is unlikely. The accused would be held pending trial. Trial could be a year or more away as both sides prepare. Prosecutors will present evidence methodically. They'll establish that children were in the home. They'll present evidence of what occurred. They'll demonstrate aftermath and concealment. They'll use experts to explain soil evidence, DNA evidence, cell data. They'll present informant testimony. They'll use timeline analysis to show inconsistencies. Defense will work to create doubt, suggest alternatives, argue suspicion isn't proof. They might argue the children genuinely disappeared and suspicious behavior was panic. They might try to suggest one defendant bears responsibility while the other was innocent. They might challenge credibility or reliability, but they'll face significant challenges given the evidence volume and consistency. A jury will decide whether evidence proves guilt beyond reasonable doubt. The burden of proof is high, but when evidence is this strong and consistent with no credible innocent explanation, juries typically find guilt. Potential sentences depend on charges and verdicts. The most serious charges carry life sentences under Canadian law. Even lesser charges carry significant prison time. The accused could spend much or all of their remaining lives incarcerated if convicted. The hope is that pressure of impending charges might finally break one of them into revealing where the remains are. Even at this stage, cooperation could result in consideration. If one provides information leading to recovery, prosecutors might offer reduced charges or sentencing recommendations. The family deserves to properly honor these children. The community deserves closure. The children deserve to be found and treated with dignity. But even if the location is never revealed, justice can still be served. The evidence is strong enough to proceed. Even if this final secret is kept, accountability will be imposed. This new evidence represents a turning point. After 7 months, after challenges and frustrations, the breakthrough has come. Truth is emerging. Justice is approaching. Two innocent children who were failed will receive accountability they deserve. The evidence speaks clearly. Multiple forms of scientific analysis point in the same direction. Multiple witnesses corroborate key facts. Digital evidence confirms timelines and locations. Financial records show preparation. All of it tells a story of what happened and who was responsible. Investigators refused to give up. They methodically gathered evidence. They followed every lead. They used every available tool. They built a case piece by piece. That work is bearing fruit. The breakthrough has happened. The evidence has been found. The case is being built. Soon, Lilly and Jack Sullivan may finally receive justice they've been waiting for. What do you think of this evidence? Does it convince you charges are coming? Do you believe justice will be served? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you want updates as this case develops, subscribe to True Crime Vault now. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, smash that like button, and share this video. This case needs attention until justice is served. If you have any information about this case, contact the RCMP immediately. The tip line is open. You could provide crucial information. There's still a reward available. Help bring justice for Lilly and Jack. Thank you for watching. The breakthrough has happened. Justice is coming. We'll continue covering every development until this case reaches conclusion, and those responsible are held accountable for what they've done to two innocent children who deserved so much better.